You're watching Saturday Anime on the Sci-Fi Channel.
Greetings, this is Reverend Paul, and this is Raw. Now, where we last left our band of merry misfits, Denji and the rest of Division 4 were attacked by Katana Man, and unfortunately, Himeno was killed. The next episode of Chainsaw Man picks up with Aki recovering in his hospital room, and Power and Denji are there, they're reading manga, they're eating all his get-well-soon apples, and Denji's like, what's going on, Aki? Glad to see you're doing better. Me and Power gotta leave because Makima's gonna have us do some extra training. Then, Kurose and Tendo show up, and they tell Aki he's pretty much used up all of his devil contracts. Khan will not respond to any of his calls because she's kind of pissed off that Aki tried to make her eat Katana Man, and Aki only has 2 years of his life left to give to the Cursed Devil. So Kurose and Tendo are like, Aki, Makima sent us down here to let you know, since you can't really use your devil contracts anymore, you're not really a lot of use as a devil hunter. So you could either leave or you gotta get more devil contracts. The choice is up to you. And then when the members of Division 1 leave, a mysterious chick walks in and Aki seems kind of surprised. So Makima takes Denji and Power to train with Master Kishibe. And Master Kishibe is like the greatest devil hunter. He kind of reminds me of Kakihara from Ichi the Killer. Not the manga version, but the movie version. He looks fucking exactly like the movie version of Kakihara. But whereas Kakihara was like the ultimate masochist, Kishibe is like the ultimate sadist. He is also a man who enjoys booze and women. How can you not like this dude? He tells Denji and Power they're the perfect candidates to be the best devil hunters ever because they're fucking nuts. And because Kishibe is a fucking badass who could kill any devil, Kishibe is gonna teach Denji and Power how to beat him, thus making them badasses in the process. This is a fucking awesome plan. It is foolproof. Now, it turns out the mysterious girl that came to visit Aki was Himeno's younger sister. And Himeno's younger sister gave Aki a bunch of letters that Himeno had written. And while reading the letters, Aki learns Himeno was struggling financially, she was worrying about her dad, and she was trying to get Aki to leave the public safety devil hunters because she knew continuing to serve as a devil hunter was going to lead to a bad end for them both. But rather than quit the devil hunters, Aki decides to stay the course because he is determined to kill the gun devil. That is his purpose. So the members of Division 1 take Aki to the prison where they keep all the devils so Aki can make a new devil contract. And Aki ends up making a contract with this weird future devil dude. And the future devil tells Aki, if you let me live in your eye, I'll let you use my powers because you have a really fucked up future and you're gonna die in a really fucked up way and I gotta see this shit for myself. And Aki's like, all right, that sounds good to me. Now back with Kishibe, Power and Denji are doing their fucking Master Roshi training and Master Kishibe is fucking beating the shit out of them. Denji and Power die so many times they lose count. Denji starts having some weird head spasm and then Power has to start punching him in the face to make him feel better. Needless to say, things are not looking too good for Denji and Power. But Power tells Denji, okay, Kishibe may be like the smartest devil hunter, but this motherfucker has been drinking booze for years and his brain has been fucking rotted by alcohol. Even though we're pretty fucking stupid, if we put our heads together, we gotta be smarter than that motherfucker. And Denji's like, yes, this is an awesome plan, let's do it. And you know Denji and Power have gotten smarter because they have put on glasses, and so I'm fully confident in this plan they are about to pull off. So Kishibe walks down the hall of this apartment complex, and Power is behind the door. And then she shoots one of her blood spears at him, almost getting him. And then Power has a bunch of soda bottles filled with blood that she then fucking brings down like spikes from the combat tomb in fucking Mortal Kombat 2. And then Denji jumps down and he is about to finish Kishibe, but Kishibe gives him a fucking Chuck Norris roundhouse kick and neutralizes Denji. And Kishibe's like, you wanna know what? Good effort. I'm gonna go get drunk. We'll continue this tomorrow. And Denji's like, okay, that's great. And then when Denji says that, Kishibe delivers the finishing blow, letting Denji know, never believe anything your enemy tells you. Or as Kishibe put it, beasts should never trust anything the hunter says. So Kishibe tells Denji and Power they have made some progress, but they still have a lot of training to do, and they will have their first real test the next day because the public safety devil hunters have located Akane and Katana Man. And the public safety devil hunters are getting ready to move in and capture the two bad guys. Now Now, the night before the raid on Akane and Katana Man, Kishibe and Makima are hanging out, and we come to find underneath his tough Kakihara-esque exterior, Kishibe is actually a pretty good dude. He mourned the death of every devil hunter he trained, and he thought he wouldn't give a shit about Denji and Power because they are crazy devil people, but he does, and this is why he drinks. And we also find out Kishibe doesn't really trust Makima. Kishibe does kind of give the impression that he tolerates Makima just because at the moment she's a benefit to humanity. But there does seem like there's a part of him that feels like Makima might be more concerned with her own ambitions. So now the next day, Denji, Power, Kishibe, Aki, they show up at the building and they're going to raid the hideout of Katana Man, and Denji, Power, and Aki move in, and at that moment, Kishibe gives the rest of the team a briefing on the new members of Division 4. Because in addition to the Three Musketeers, we have some new faces that will be helping out, like the Shark Fiend, who has the power to swim through walls and turn into a fucking land shark. And then there's the Violence Fiend, who is super strong, and the public safety devil hunters actually make him wear a mask with poison in it. There's also the Angel Devil, who you need to be careful because if you get too close to him, he could drain your life with just a touch. And then there's the Spider Devil, who's fucking creepy as hell. Elsewhere, Makima is meeting with the Yakuza, and she is informing them Akane Sawatari is recruiting members of the Yakuza and having them enter in a contract with the Gun Devil. Basically, what's happening is, in exchange for a couple of thousand yen, the Gun Devil will provide each member of the Yakuza with a pair of guns. And Makima tells the Yakuza she needs them to give them the name of all of their members that have contracts with the Gun Devil. And the head Yakuza dude is like, well, that's perfectly fine with me because we think the Gun Devil fucking sucks. And then Makima's like, I'm also going to need the names of all the other syndicates and all the other families that have contracts with the Gun Devil. And that Yakuza dude is like, I can't do that. That's kind of crazy, lady. And Makima's like, well, see this fucking brown paper bag? Within the bag contains the eyes of all of your family members. Now, I know somebody who could put these eyes back in their heads, but if you don't cooperate with me, that's probably not going to happen. Needless to say, the Yakuza dudes are a bit taken aback, and Makima has to flex a little bit of her muscle to get them to back off, but eventually they acquiesce. Scenes like this, with Makima hanging out with the Yakuza, and she's got a bag full of eyeballs, it just once again makes me think Tatsuki Fujimoto is a big fan of the Ichi the Killer movie, or at the very least, a big fan of Takashi Miike, because this scene could have been ripped right out of a Takashi Miike movie. Now, after Katana Man's uncle died, Katana Man inherited an army of zombies, so the public safety devil hunters are down there fucking duking it out with these zombies. Aki and the Angel Devil seem to be hitting it off, and so at this point, everybody splits up and everybody's gonna go settle their scores. Power and Denji go in the elevator, and when the doors open up, they encounter a bunch of zombies, and Denji wanted to avoid these zombies, but Power does the right thing in fucking beating the shit out of these fucking evil zombies. I don't care what anybody says, the world is a better place with less zombies. Ignoring the problem doesn't help. Power knows the solution is you need to kill every single one of these evil pieces of shit. Here is yet another example of Power demonstrating how she is the real hero of this series. There is also nothing wrong with eating a zombie arm if you're hungry. All of us have done it. Everybody, I'm sure, when they were hungry, late at night, decided to raid the fridge and they grabbed a zombie arm out of the fridge. Okay, maybe it wasn't a zombie arm, maybe it was a chicken leg, but it's basically the same fucking thing. Aki then faces off against Akane, and Akane has the Snake Devil puke up the remains of the Ghost Devil, and Aki has to have a showdown with the devil of his late friend. Now, at first, it seems like the Ghost Devil will have an upper hand over Aki, but Aki remembered that Himeno told him that the Ghost Devil can only see fear. So if you are not afraid, the Ghost Devil can't do anything to you. So Aki approaches the Ghost Devil with zero fear, and then he cuts the head off the Ghost Devil. And Kobeni, the secret badass, sneaks up behind Akane, and Denji gets off of the elevator and faces off with Katana Man yet again. And I think this fight is pretty cool. It's very modern superhero. You have Katana Man rushing Chainsaw Man and knocking him into the distance, kind of like Man of Steel. You got the Spider-Man 2 Wolverine train sequence. And as we've seen before, Katana Man is very methodical with his strikes, and he is very aggressive. Katana Man's entire fight style seems to consist of him being on the offensive. And it seems to be working pretty well at first, but it ends up being his downfall. Because once Katana Man has Denji dead to rights, where he cut off both of his arms and he's like that fucking dude in Monty Python, Denji's like, well, I still got the chainsaw in my head, and Katana Man's like, well, fuck that. I'm gonna cut that thing off too. And then Katana Man goes to do a fucking Mega Man dash at Chainsaw Man, and then Chainsaw Man reveals that he had a chainsaw in his foot and he just cut fucking Katana Man in half. It's a shame Katana Man never learned the lesson a beast should never trust anything a hunter says. So once Katana Man is in custody, Aki and Denji have a bit of a bonding moment, and Denji tells Aki we should totally kick the shit out of this dude's nuts as a tribute to Himeno, and Aki's like, well, that seems kind of fucked up, and I don't think Himeno would want that, but what the hell, let's do it. And they start kicking the shit out of Katana Man's nuts as a way to honor their late friend, the great Himeno. Now, elsewhere, Makima informs the higher-ups the Snake Devil has killed Akane, essentially committing suicide so she wouldn't be captured. But even though they can't get any information out of Akane, Makima informs the higher-ups they do have a large chunk of flesh of the Gun Devil, and when they combine that chunk of flesh with the other chunks they got, it started to move towards the main body of the Gun Devil, so they basically know where his location is. And that means we are getting closer to a face-off between Chainsaw Man and the Gun Devil. Now that we've seen this entire first season of Chainsaw Man, I think the ideas and subtext can be seen now with a lot more clarity. These early chapters of Chainsaw Man to me really feel like a satire of post-college life. The life Denji is currently living reminds me a lot of what my life was like when I was in my early 20s, when I just got out of school and I was forced to take a shitty job just to pay off my student loans. I feel like this is one of the ideas that Chainsaw Man is commenting on. This idea that debt is a necessary part of life and is also something that's kind of responsible for your downfall. When Denji's a little kid, he inherits his father's debts and is forced to work for the Yakuza, and then when he becomes Chainsaw Man, he is forced to work for Division 4 under threat of losing his life. It's almost as if being Chainsaw Man comes with a price. As we see with Aki, he is forced into another contract with another devil, essentially taking on more debt. Aki's devil contracts are basically stripping away whatever life he has left. I also think the scene of Makima confronting the Yakuza is very interesting, especially when Makima says the Yakuza is not a necessary evil because necessary evils are essentially controlled by the government. And when you take that idea in combination with the allegory about debt, it seems to me that Chainsaw Man is commenting on this idea nations are essentially manufacturing misery for their citizens. And going back to the whole allegory of Chainsaw Man being about post-college life, when people graduate school, they come out loaded with debt, and the reason they are is because society is doing that as a way to control you and restrict your mobility in life. We can't have you graduate college and make too much money because then you might not show up to that shitty job anymore. So we have to make sure there's a certain amount of economic pressure on you the whole time. And we see this idea of control throughout the series, especially with Denji, who's not only controlled by his debts, but he's also controlled by things like boobs and wanting to get laid. I think Makima's statement that necessary evils are controlled by the government is a little inaccurate. I think a more accurate statement would be necessary evils are controlled by people in power. And so in a society, the people in the government have the power. And in Division 4, Makima has the power. Makima is manufacturing the misery in Division 4. She made Aki get another devil contract, and like I said, if it wasn't for her raging alcoholism, Himeno wouldn't have gotten drunk and puked all over Denji. I've also mentioned in past videos how the idea of fear is a recurring idea. And once again, we see this idea appear in the story. The way Aki is able to defeat the Ghost Devil is to have no fear. The story is essentially telling us the things that you're afraid of and the things that you feel like control you only have power if you give them that power. If you play into the fear, it makes the things that you're afraid of much more stronger. Essentially, the limitations we have in life, the challenges we face in life are all self-imposed. We could all rise above these things if we choose. And that is an idea we see represented in the character of Chainsaw Man himself. Chainsaw Man is Denji when Denji is free from all of the restrictions of everyday life. Chainsaw Man gives Denji the power to do anything that he wants. But even as Chainsaw Man, Denji allows himself to be controlled. And sure, Makima may have made Aki strike a deal with the future devil, but at the end of the day, it was his choice. So Chainsaw Man is not only commenting on this idea that society manufactures things to control people, like debts and the promise of being able to grab a boob, it's also commenting on the idea that we are participants in this because we are allowing ourselves to be controlled. Aki believes he has no other purpose other than to fight the Gun Devil. Denji thinks he needs all this materialistic shit to make himself happy. It's almost as if the story is trying to say we allow ourselves to be controlled in order to keep the things that we want or in order to give ourselves purpose. Now, overall, I was really satisfied with the first season of Chainsaw Man. It lived up to all of my expectations and I really enjoyed it. I can see that some people might take issue with the pacing of the series because I actually thought the series would end with the confrontation with Bomb Girl. And looking back, it does feel as if there was a lot of padding in some episodes. But with that said, I think the pacing in Chainsaw Man works really well. I feel like some of the extra scenes that they added really give the story a lot more room to breathe. I like seeing the extra scenes of Aki hanging out in his apartment. I love seeing the extra scenes of just Power, Denji, and Aki just tooling around Tokyo. And I like all the extra stuff we saw at Himeno's apartment, where we see Himeno like drunkenly get more beer, and we get that POV shot of Himeno trying to seduce Denji in the bedroom. I think all that stuff was great, and it did a really good job of humanizing Himeno. I think even more so than in the manga. And I also think Aki's confrontation with the Ghost Devil works really well too. You see some extra shots in the anime that they don't have in the manga. I think the music in this scene works really well. And what I really love is the flashback Aki has when he remembers that virtual date he had with Himeno. What I love about this scene is that it really looks like one of those Bishoujo dating simulator games. It's hysterical. It makes me think that Aki just sees the world as a Bishoujo dating simulation. Now, this scene in the manga is kind of presented as a grid, and the grid layout really does give this scene a quicker pace in the manga. And in the anime, I really like the fact that there are all these little spaces where Himeno will say a line and she'll kind of pause and make an expression with her face, and then Aki will respond, and then we'll see Himeno react with another expression. The anime version of this flashback, I think, had a really great rhythm that I don't think really came across in the manga, and I feel like there are a lot of moments like that in the Chainsaw Man anime. One scene I thought worked better in the manga was when Aki is in the hospital and he's about to light up a cigarette, and suddenly he gets that image of Himeno lighting her lighter. I like that scene better in the manga, because in the manga, I kind of interpreted that scene to almost be like that scene in One Piece when Zoro is practicing his sword after Kuina dies, and then suddenly he sees that shot of Kuina sitting there out of the corner of his eye, and then he turns around and she's gone. That was the way I interpreted that scene in the manga with Aki and Himeno. I thought Aki was lighting his cigarette, and out of the corner of his eye, he saw Himeno offering him a light. But in the anime, they just play it as a flashback, and I mean, I guess it still works in the anime. I just liked it better in the manga. Now, this has been said before in the comment section a lot, but I really do think the Denji and Power training sequence really does solidify them as the Beavis and Butthead of anime. Like Beavis and Butthead, Power and Denji are so fucking stupid, they go around to being smart. And even if Beavis and Butthead's plan completely falls on its face, Beavis and Butthead will still manage to come out on top. And I feel like that's exactly what's happening with Denji and Power. And what I also love about the Denji and Power training sequence is the fact that, unlike most anime characters who when they go to training, they get better, Denji and Power don't. If anything, they just get slightly better. And if you only come away from Chainsaw Man learning one thing, learn what Power taught us, which is the way to help your friend when they're hurt is to keep punching them in the face till they feel better. Now, I've mentioned this in past videos, but Denji is the kind of guy who does a lot of self-sabotaging. And I think we see this again when Denji visits Aki in the hospital. When Denji visits Aki in the hospital, he is struck at how indifferent he feels. He feels like he wouldn't really give a shit if Aki died. He probably wouldn't give a shit if Power died. He might be sad for a little while if Makima died, but he'd get over it pretty quickly. And then Denji starts to think like, wow, maybe Pochita didn't just replace my heart, maybe he kind of replaced my soul, and I can't love anymore. But what I think Denji's problem is that he is a dude who is completely cut off from his feelings. Because we know he's a good guy. We saw him do good things. He saved people when he was fighting the Bat Devil. He's a well-meaning dude. But like a lot of young dudes, he is not in touch with his sensitive side. And like, look, this is another one of those things that I could speak from experience. I could remember being a 20-year-old guy who never cried at movies. And then one day I got old and I started to cry at movies all the fucking time. Because when I was a young guy, I think I was too afraid to admit my feelings to myself. And I think that's what's going on with Denji. Denji may say he doesn't care about Power, but looking at his actions, I have to disagree. So like I mentioned before, I really enjoyed the first season of the Chainsaw Man anime. As somebody who read the manga, the anime was pretty much everything I expected it to be. Although I am open to other opinions. If you have problems with the anime, if you have criticisms, leave me a comment because I'd love to hear them. Now, at the time that I'm recording this, the second season of Chainsaw Man has not been officially announced, but it seems like it's pretty much a given there'll be a season 2 of Chainsaw Man. This first season of Chainsaw Man ends by teasing Bomb Girl. If you were like me and you thought Katana Man was pretty cool, but he would have been improved like with boobs, then Bomb Girl is the character for you. And if they make a season 2, I am looking forward to seeing more of the new members of Division 4. The Violence Fiend is very cool, and the Shark Fiend is really awesome. The Shark Fiend is also the character that in the manga gave us this iconic shot of Chainsaw Man riding a fucking shark, and that will be cool to see in anime. So there's still plenty of more to talk about in regards to Chainsaw Man. So with that said, this is Reverend Paul saying, until we meet again.